Hi everyone, welcome to today's videocast. So the topic for today's videocast is stimming, and what I'm going to talk about today in this videocast is not what is stimming, but basically how can you build a relationship with the child when he or she is doing stimming, and how you can reduce the time that the child is spending in stimming. So I'll repeat it again. So I'm going to talk about how you can build a relationship while the child is engaged in stimming, and how you can reduce the time the child is spending in stimming. So stimming comes from the word stim, and that's actually a sensory regulating behavior, sensory stimulating behavior, which helps the child to regulate. So as I said, I won't talk about what is stimming. There are a lot of professionals talking about, and there are so many examples also of stimming. And I'm going to talk further than that. So how you can build the relationship and how you can reduce the time spent in stimming. So first of all, you need to check the entire bodily infections. Sometimes there can be a precipitating factor of an ear infection or a retinal detachment, or sometimes the child has headaches or migraine. So in migraines, we also do stimming just to relieve the pain. So do read about this. This is an interesting fact that I'm sharing. Then you also need to check the environment in which the child is, and you have to check about both emotional factors and sensory factors. So there could be sensory antecedents, sensory triggers, which is leading the child or making him or her to do stimming. There are a lot of visually stimulating things which are either overstimulating the child, or it's just understimulated, or the child is feeling excitable or is causing anxiety and stress. So look for those sensory environmental factors, and you need to manage them, you need to replace them, you need to regulate them. And emotional factors are like, again, what is an emotional antecedent? What did you say to the child, or what did you took away from the child, or what was the transition? So that is it. As I said, it's basically a sensory stimulating behavior which help us to regulate. If we are playing with the pen and we are writing out something, we are thinking something, we're trying to regulate. Sometimes for an adult, stimming could be like you are in a social gathering and you're overwhelmed. You are in a socially anxious state of mind. You might not just be ready to talk, so you would be just fiddling with your phone. That's again stimming. So we also do stimming. That's the same way the children are indulging in stimming, because they are into an overstimulating environment or they are understimulated, and these are the factors. So if you really want to know what is stimming, what are the factors, and what else we can do to understand the core of stimming, I have a short ebook which I have prepared. So you connect with me and you can get that ebook. Now let's come to the 6 basic strategies that how you can build up a relationship while the child is doing stimming and reduce the time. So I said, first of all, check for the infections. Then you manage the environment, both the emotional and sensory factors. Then it's always a good thing to do to help the child do lot of vigorous exercise, lot of heavy work, lot of proprioceptive input, because that is going to release the serotonins and endorphins. Because even when we work out or do exercise, it gives a good impact on our own sensorium and to our entire central nervous system and to our body. So that's the cue that I'm giving, that vigorous exercise would help the child a lot. And you can target the area. If they're doing a lot of stimming with the hands or the voice, accordingly you prepare a vigorous exercise. The OTs and PTs can help you design those exercise protocols. Now when the child is in stimming, even just taking an example, if the child is howling or if anybody is crying, what do you try to do? You try to distract, or if even somebody is upset, you always try to reach to the core. why the person is upset. You try to console, empathize. The same thing you have to do during stimming. So continue your interaction when the child is doing stimming. Stimming could be like screaming, or it would be like again with the hand stimming, hand flapping. So when the child is doing the stims, that is the sensory stimulating behavior, rocking to and fro or just taking the rounds, so running. So continue your interaction. Don't break the interaction. And it doesn't have to be like you're asking too many probing questions, but interaction could be if the child is simply spinning something. You can just use, oh wow, how wonderfully you are spinning. Wow, this is a red color toy that you're spinning. It's so tiny. So describe what the child is doing in a way that's going to continue the interaction, and usually it might lead to some interaction. The child would give you a joint attention or some kind of eye contact that would break his focus on that stimming, or it would gradually reduce the time that the child is spent on stimming. Next would be, again, if you're doing like you're continuing with the interaction, it's again a good way of relationship building. The child might start trusting you, and he would feel that you are entering the world that the child is. Now use stimming during your sessions if stimming is happening, or when you're interacting with the child as a parent during the lunch and the child is still doing stimming. You can use it as a reward, you can use it as a reinforcer. So that's a good trick. Again, it's going to build a good rapport with the child. Again, it's promoting the relationship building between you and the student or the child. So use stimming as a reinforcer. So that's one tip. Now, this is a concept that has been put forward by the things that we use, the popular techniques that we use, that is sunrise and floor time program. They say join the stimming. Whatever the child is doing, again, I will put the example of child is moving to and fro, or he's turning around, or he's doing some movement. So unless and until it's not very harmful, so there are different behavioral strategies for it. That's a separate thing. You join the child in stimming, and this is going to make the child feel that he is leading, he is in control of that kind of a situation. He will feel like a leader, and you will give the lead to the child, and it is going to again a way of initiating interaction, rapport building, and the child might give you some attention. He will move beyond that stimming. He would do some other movement. He would feel that you're imitating him. He would find it interacting. So look for the reactions from the child, and then you can actually climb up the developmental ladder. You can build up your own movements, and maybe the child copies. So you copy the child and the child imitates you back. So this is how you're managing the relationship building and increasing the interaction. So these were the 6 strategies that you can do to build up a relationship while the child is indulged in stimming. And you can reduce the time the child is spending in stimming. Now, why I'm focusing on this sentence, reduce the time. So basically, it's not that you can totally abolish the stimming, because it's a kind of regulation that an individual is using to overcome the sensory overload, underload, or the anxiety and stress. So you cannot actually abolish it, or it could just not go rapidly. You can only, initially your goal should be to reduce the time that is spent on stimming. So these strategies are going to help you that. And then the next step would be to replace it with the things that is more alluring to the child. He finds it interesting. So that's why I said, when there are harmful stimming, if you feel that something is harmful, then you can replace it, which is little more convenient and safe. So that's my bit on emphasizing the fact that reduce the time spent on stimming. What are the strategies to be followed? I talked about 6 strategies. And during the stimming also, you can make the child interact with you, and this will definitely promote your relationship and great rapport building with the student or the child in question. So that's it for today. Thank you for listening to my videocast on stimming. Bye.